We are recording and never speaking of what we were speaking of before we hit start record.
Oh.
Secrets.
Once they find the bodies. Can I say something?
Mm-hmm.
So this week marked a seminal watershed moment in my son's life.
Ooh.
He, after many attempts by both Pam and I, our lovely nanny was able to finally get him to go to Build-A-Bear. So he goes to Build-A-Bear. He's fascinated by it.
What was the how did the resistance to that play out? Does he get?
I was like, dude, do you want to go? He's like, no. I walked in with him once. He was like, not into it. I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Is this like a pivotal thing of an American childhood?
No, it's just...
Yeah, for the record, I've never been in one of those places.
I hadn't either. And by the way, you should never go in one without a child. So it's just weird. They're like, can we help you, sir? Can we help you? Two most awkward places for a single dude to walk into are a Build-A-Bear and a Victoria's Secret. Because they're just like, why are you really here?
No,
I promise
I feel like
I'm not
if a
buying.
grown man walks into a Victoria's Secret, I would, if I am ever in one of those kinds of stores and I see a man in there and they're clearly looking around confused, I'm like, bless his heart.
It's Will Smith and Enemy of the State.
By the way, she doesn't care. She doesn't want anything you're going to get
his
her.
electronic device in that you can see from all
She or
angles.
he does not want. So that's the setup. So he builds Charlie. Charlie is a bear.
Mm-hmm.
And you can choose a sound. I wish I had Charlie. Fuck. I don't in here right now. When you squeeze Charlie's hand, Charlie makes any sound you want. You can like choose from like a bunch of different ones. My son chooses the Imperial March from Star Wars.
Oh no.
Which was both
what does that mean?
Instantly comforting and also off-putting. So I was like, dude, do you want to watch Star Wars? And he was like, yeah, check it out. I want to see what this is all about.
Oh, he hadn't seen Star Wars and he picked Imperial March?
He's just like, that's a cool tune.
He was like, that's awesome. And I was like, okay. And so there's like a Darth
Uncle
Vader.
Austin told me about the history of the composition of this music, and I've always wanted to hear it.
It's amazing. I was like, Uncle Austin needs to come over for dinner right now and explain to you so many things that you're missing about both the music and the world. But I got to finally see like this 4-year-old brain try to process who everybody is and what's happening and what's going on. Who he loves. He loves the stormtroopers. I'm terrified of my child. He's like, stormtroopers!
Imperial
He's like, gets
March!
really excited.
Let's go! You need to.
I just realized the seminal moment you were talking about was seeing Star Wars,
not building
a bear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not building a bear.
I just caught up.
Me too. Yeah.
But the cool thing is when Chewbacca came on, of course, I had to, I broke into my bad Wookiee. And then Traveler looked at me and like looked at Chewie and he was like, I want to do that. And so him running around our house going, da, 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 trying to make the Chewbacca sound.
Aww.
Coolest sound in the entire world. It's just awesome. So
multi-generational voice acting dynasty is coming this way.
That's pretty awesome.
The giant walking carpet.
Did he?
And Harrison's forward body language when he's just like, we're all fine here. How are you? He's like on like a...
I like that you called him Harrison's Ford.
Harrison's Ford.
That's much
my
fancier.
favorite delicious.
It's like Attorneys General.
Does
Attorneys General.
Does a 4-year-old? How much of character and plot do they understand, or is a lot of it just sort of visual and sound?
Traveler's always been very like Back to the Future, and this is how it was always introduced. There was some kind of like totem or piece of paraphernalia from something. He was like, what's that about? And he loves cars, vehicles. He's very mechanically engineering mind. And so I was like, dude, we need to go to Best Buy. He goes, can I get a car? I'm like, tell you what, man, you can find a car at Best Buy. I'll buy it for you. He found
some $500 remote control car.
Yeah, I was like, shit.
Yeah.
He found a scale model of the DeLorean. And I'm like, well, I'm absolutely going to buy that for you. And he just fascinated by it.
It was a 1-to-1 scale model.
1-to-1.
It was in the parking lot.
I bought you a
DeLorean. Which, by the way, if anyone wants to buy DeLorean,
You've got some merchandise you got to unload.
he was like, so it was like, this is awesome, and Bush, and I'm trying to like tell him like that's a flux capacitor. He's looking at me like, you're drunk, Dad. And I'm like, maybe a little, but I was like, do you want to see this? And so we like watched the opening of just when the DeLorean comes out of the back of the car and stuff, and he's like, holy crap. And so we got to watch all parts of it. So there was 3 main moments in that movie where he wants to watch, and it's the first time it goes 88. And hearing my son, every bad guy is now a Libyan. So, oh no, the Libyans are here. I was like, you're okay. So confusing. It's like that's only a word that we say at our house. You can't run around going, "Look, Dad, a Libyan." I'm like, no. But it's just it's so fun to like to experience this stuff through like fresh eyes. It makes me. I mean, I'm a big nerd anyway, obviously, but I forget the first time to see something, and I'm always excited when. That's why I think I lied a lot when I was growing up about seeing stuff or saying that I'd read a book or played a game or saw a movie just because I was afraid of feeling left out. And now I actually embrace it because I love seeing people light up when they're like, can we go stop our entire lives and go play this or watch this or listen to this?
Did I go on about my music history professor here before who would ask the class?
We don't know, probably, but go ahead.
112 episodes. Let's go.
I don't know.
Alanah just got bored of the format, guys.
No. I don't mind hearing the stories multiple times. I'm cool with it.
Whatever. I don't think you have, Austin. I've not heard that story.
I don't feel like I told it here, but I love telling the story, so it's inevitable that I thought I had. But anyway, my music history professor at NYU is maybe the greatest teacher I've ever had. I mean, he's truly amazing, and he could hold court with 300 kids in a lecture hall, 300 like 18-year-old bored, no amount of being, at college to study your chosen subject is enough to overcome it.
Was it by rapping like they all do in the movies?
I didn't interrupt. I just want to point the fact. I
Technically,
had a great
he
joke for holding
stopped.
court.
I just asked a question.
No, because I said he stopped too, and people were still interrupted him. I was like, he finished his
I
story.
didn't cut him off.
Look, as long as I don't say Fassbender's British again, I think the
Fassbender's
comments
you got lit up, didn't you, homie?
I saw a lot of notifications
Imperialist bastard.
Yeah, no, it's fair enough.
Austin, did he
My
rap
bad.
like they do in the movies?
No,
Excellent.
I think that would have been the most un-him thing I could possibly imagine.
Not a rapper. Okay.
Yeah, no, he was very professorial in the cliche sense of what that means, but he was such an unbelievable lecturer, so captivating. And he had taught at NYU since 1968. He wrote the textbooks himself, so he gave you his textbook, and he knew everything cold. Like, I mean, it was just this was a guy that clearly had this material down, but it didn't feel like a going by through the motions, sort of like, okay, today we're going to talk about Mozart. It was
So
like
you basically
today. Honestly, this guy shaped who I am. I started to spend time with him. Like, we became close friends. He sadly got cancer very shortly after I graduated, and I flew to his funeral. Like, we became pretty close.
I was going to make a joke about how you murdered him and put his skin on, and now you
I was
are him,
thinking
and then it got
maybe
sad.
this is all
Thinking that
covered.
way.
Sorry about that.
I like that you felt too sad to say the joke, but not sad enough to tell us that's what you were going to
That's
say.
friendship.
You
That's
could
what
have
friendship
saved
is.
yourself.
Trying to
but
be
it was
honest.
too good of a joke.
Trying to be
Yeah,
honest.
it's pure honesty. It's good. It's
No, it's
important
true.
to open up.
So I remember this is a lecture hall. Every music major is required to take this.
Sorry, Austin. Troy's being attacked by the invisible ninja, and we have to address it.
Fucking mosquitoes, man. This year are just
Oh, I looked down and I missed it.
They
so I
are
have no
really
idea.
bad, right?
they are. And the conspiracy theorist in mine is like, Los Angeles released 35 million mosquitoes. I'm like, and they're assholes. They're all
I tell you what, if
assholes.
my guy had a one, we wouldn't have these skaters out
We
here.
wouldn't have no skaters, would we, Skater? No, we wouldn't have no skaters. We wouldn't have no skaters at all.
Sorry, Austin, go ahead.
You need to have the voice.
You were talking about your
Your professor, sorry about
Your
that. Yeah,
mentor?
go ahead.
Anyway, the point was,
They're gonna animate that. I can't wait.
No, they got to animate this part. This is the good part. This thing about vicariously experiencing something new for the first time. That's what all this was leaping off of, because he goes, we would get to the major, like we're working our way. It was a 4-semester class, 2 years, working your way from the medieval period all the way to modern times through essentially like the European classical music history. And so really detailed, but every now and again you come to like a Beethoven and you're going to talk about, a 5th symphony or a 9th symphony. So a lot of it is music that a student is not likely to have heard before. But as someone who had to audition to get into music school, the big ones, theoretically, there's no way you've gotten this far and haven't heard, The Rite of Spring, Beethoven's 5th, Mozart's, Requiem, whatever, like the truly staples. But he would always, before each one of those, go, who here has never heard this piece, like a Beethoven's 5th? And out of 300 or 400 kids in lecture hall, there'd be like 5 that would very shyly go like, I've never heard Beethoven's 5th. I don't know how. And I remember he'd single out those students and go, I so envy that you're about to experience this for the first time. This is one of the greatest works of art in the whole of human history. And all the rest of us, it's old news. You're literally about to taste something for the first time that has stood the test. To me, that was one of those watershed moments of realizing how amazing, how precious it is to have not experienced something that is
Have you
great.
seen
So,
those
I'm with you
two
on this
kids who have a
story.
YouTube channel where they just react to songs? I'm sure we've spoken about that before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
One of them was Enter the Sand.
aren't there like
Enter the
1,000
Sandman.
channels?
Wasn't it Enter Sandman was one of them, or it was like In the Air Tonight?
I remember
was one of them.
Phil Collins. I was going to say I remember a Phil Collins one.
Watching them listen to like what would be classic rap or hip hop and being shocked that they haven't heard it is very, very cool. Like it's like,
What's it called?
Some
I
of
feel
it's so
like
timeless.
I've seen
Yeah, I
so many
should remember.
reaction YouTube channels that I don't know if I've seen this one or not.
It's kind of a different definition of ignorance is bliss, right? Like the being ignorant is itself a source of joy, at the moment of becoming, I guess, less ignorant by experiencing something.
It's funny when you talking about watching Star Wars with Traveler. I remember I was probably 6 when I saw it. I was a little older than he was. And I remember it was one of those where it was a similar premise, though, where my dad was like, it's time. Actually, because I had developed an obsession with Indiana Jones, and my dad goes, he was in another movie that I think you'd like.
American Graffiti. Now, watch
I wasn't
this.
able to find what the channel name is, but The
Conversation.
I should try
Jim
to
Ryan.
find it.
James. Oh.
I had a
Oh.
very good experience like that of a friend of mine played The Last of Us maybe like years after it came out, and she was playing it over a very long period of time. She gets
And you're
really,
like, you've got to try Mass Effect. He's great at that.
she's playing it
That's
over a
my role
long
in the
period of time
friendship.
because she has really bad motion sickness with video games, so it takes her a while to get through things. And as soon as because I was downstairs, we lived together. As soon as I realized that she was at the end of the game, because I could hear it, I just came up the back of the staircase and just watched and just like listened to her as she was watching the end of the game all through the credits. I think she
Norman
cried
Bates style.
getting to watch somebody go through that and like see them process it in real time, because I've never done that before. I processed it, but I'd never watched someone else process it and have no concept of what was happening. It was very, very cool to watch and be like, so what did you think? How do you feel about this?
How are you feeling is always the
Yeah.
question. How are you
Yeah,
feeling?
watching the Brian and Amelia play Last of Us 2 on their stream and get so like at the kind of true gut punch moments towards the end, like just see them sort of melt down and like literally go, we may need to kind of pause the stream. Like we're really kind
Affected
of
by it.
yeah, like it was one of those where I found myself getting pulled in. Like it was just one of those. I think Angela messaged me. He's like, "Oh, they're near the end of the game," and I turned on. I wasn't watching the stream. I turned it on kind of right at the moment they started to have their sort of emotional meltdown, and but it was like a quiet. It was like a collapse. It was just like they got really quiet.
Yeah.
And like couldn't talk, and I felt it. It pulled me in, and I felt like I was experiencing the game for the first time. And it's like that's a rare joy of a sort to kind of see things through someone's eyes.
I had not watched a lot of movies, obviously, and my one of my exes was very into film, but never wanted to show me movies. Like there was this sort of rhetoric that was very
you find the
like,
one film nerd that didn't want to make?
Yeah, I was going to
his
say, what kind
partner
of, I guess they've really earned that title of X.
he had this thing that was kind of like, girls don't like that though. Like said that about
great.
Big Lebowski, which I
How did you
have since watched and really liked.
Yes.
It's great.
It was a weird thing that
You're
was
also like
girls
a
on
walking feminist like stereotype, like dainty,
Truly,
like in
the
every way.
epitome
So
of girl.
I could see. Yeah, you're the girliest girly girl I've ever met.
Truly.
So
Girlier than Alanah.
But
it's true. Troy's been late to hanging out with me for the sake of manicures far more times than any other person.
I respect a manicure.
You gotta get it's the paraffin. You gotta do the paraffin.
Sometimes though, I feel like with men they overshine the nail. You look like you're fucking sparkling.
Short and shiny. I don't want them glittery. I just want them short and shiny. That's all I want.
Short and shiny. Okay. I'm
But
just making note.
Taking notes.
By the way, if you've never done, it's very good for your health. First of all, but if you've never done a manicure and a pedicure, go.
Yeah, totally good. Guys do it all the time too. I had guys in my
yeah.
high school who were going to get them together, which I thought was the cutest thing because they do like a boys only mani-pedi day thing.
Like
And
a
I was
bros manicure, yeah.
Yeah. Girls weren't allowed, and it's like, that's actually sick. Like, I love that. What do you guys talk about? Like, it's awesome.
That's really funny. I never knew any.
Take care of your peds. Take care of your peds.
That somehow feels related to this apparent thing that was happening recently that I didn't know but found incredibly endearing, of a bunch of like high school boys all over the U.S. going to see the Minions movie in suits.
Oh yeah, in suits.
Yeah.
And getting
like, I don't know
banned
where they-
for it. I was like,
Really?
What does that ever They were not
banned.
allowing them to be in the theater. They were like banning people from wearing suits to the Minion thing. I have no idea why.
Is that a thing?
Google it.
Oh my God. Because I guess they
Getting
felt like they were
banned.
being mocked, but like, what an inoffensive mockery. Wow.
And also a profitable one if they're paying for
Yeah.
tickets. Like,
They wouldn't have
Yeah,
gone
you know,
want to buy
otherwise.
my game, then insult me is very welcome.
Like
to.
they were
Like,
being
that's
being
great.
turned away if they were wearing suits.
Wow. There was another thing that was kind of like a
You there with the
TikTok
trend.
phenomenon
Stop
that I
it.
really liked that men were doing because I found it so cool was sea shanties made a comeback on
That was
TikTok.
great.
And it's just a lot of men like adding their voices to a sea shanty. And I was like, we never celebrate men collaborating artistically in this way. Like, I was like, that's so fucking cool. There are these teen boys just singing with each other who may have never done that before, putting it on the internet, just like doing it. And I was like, this fucking rules. It's so cool to watch. Like, they made beautiful music. But anyway, sorry, the end of my story was when I met Rahul, he made a list of all the movies that I hadn't seen, which is like why I ended up watching The Godfather and all this other stuff that American Psycho that I've come to you all about, that he was like, these movies.
much.
And the list is still not done. We're getting through it, but it's been awesome because, you know, he's obviously a very big film fan. It's the industry that he works in. And I finished watching something and he's just like, tell me everything that you thought about it. And then he has a different perspective on it after watching it with me as well, because maybe he hadn't for a while. It's very fun to
It's
do.
always interesting
It
seeing it
changes
through the
movies
eyes
as
of
well,
somebody
seeing
else.
with a new person. for
Absolutely,
sure.
it does.
What are you
Whatever.
crying about? There are people I have cleaners here because my dad's coming tomorrow. And so he's like, there are people outside of this room.
I'm curious. Oh my god, I want to see what's on that list first of all, and where Time Cop falls. First of all, like is it at the very top, and you're
know
building
that
up
Time
to
Cop
it?
is
Saving
on
it,
the
yeah,
You don't
list.
just jump. You have
Or
to
do
be
you-
sin illiterate before you get to Time Cop. You have to.
Yeah.
You have
Because
to have
there's
seen the greats to
The
fully get
motifs
Time
will
Cop.
be lost on you.
Okay,
the dialogue alone is just.
The top
I
five.
mean, the mise en scène. My
And
God.
the science. There's one
science,
thing that we all
solid
understand.
science.
The top
Very
five,
few movie
and
makers take the science as
Definitely going to be
seriously.
upset about one of these more than the others. So I'm actually going to go from 5 to 1 just because I feel like 1 is very offensive. Memento,
Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah.
The Usual Suspects,
Memento's solid.
Yes.
Usual Suspects is solid.
Bronson
Yes.
because I love Tom Hardy,
Oh, Bronson's great.
Shawshank
seen it.
Redemption.
Yeah.
Can I put a pin in that because I wanted to bring back Shawshank? Keep going.
Well, the last of the 5 / number 1 is Silence of the Lambs,
yeah.
which I think.
So wait, what
Silence
are
of the
they
Lambs is
ranked
offensive?
by though?
No, offensive that I haven't seen it. These are just the top 5. Like it's like they're ranked in like order of importance.
And
this-
where is
at this
Time
point.
Cop?
And where is Time? Just on the just in
No
the top
Time
5.
Cop on the list.
There's probably
No
a second
Time
list he's
Cop.
not
Can you
shown
bring
her yet.
Rahul in
Troy
right now?
easing her in.
I mean, I
Like-
can.
I don't know.
Just tonight when
Just
when
give me a
Rahul gets
second.
in, just be like, "We gotta watch Time Cop."
Hold
The
on.
guys say it's amazing.
Okay.
We've gotta watch it.
Hey, you're on Play Watch Listen.
Huh?
You're on Play, Watch, Listen. Hi.
Who is this?
Why have you not made me watch Time Cop?
Made?
For Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah, that Time
He
Cop.
can't hear you guys. I need to mention that because you're in my headphones. Yeah, I was telling them about the list of movies that we've been going through, and they've asked, where is Time Cop on the list, and why haven't I
Mike
seen it
and I
yet?
are impugned in this Time Cop.
He said because he respects me.
Because
That's a good answer.
the truth of the matter is, Time Cop, great, whatever, but there are more pressing issues. I think you need to work your way through Stallone. I think out of the tier of that from that era,
that's fair.
That is a
very
fair
wise.
assessment.
Ranks towards
Very wise.
the, like,
Understood.
I don't prioritize.
He just says that because he wants to listen to the music from Rocky
You need to watch your Rockies. Have you watched Cliffhanger?
We did watch Cliffhanger. Okay, they said that's fair.
Yeah.
That moment right there.
Cliffhanger was very good.
Clint Eastwood films.
Yeah, I have been through a lot of Clint Eastwood recently. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. They told me to bring you in right now, so thank you very much.
You know what? I was gonna give him shit, but he's
thought it through. He's thought it through. He's coming in the right way.
You have. I mean, I would even say, God, I feel the bile rising up in my throat when I say this, but you actually have to go through the path of Seagal in order to fully appreciate. One could even say
path of Seagal.
You might even have to see
on the path of Seagal.
Yeah, you kind of might even have to just dabble for a second, Speakman. But anyway,
what?
Shawshank Redemption.
Shawshank Redemption, I think, is my dad's favorite movie.
Here's something that when I love
it seems that way.
For me, Austin is paused in a very he just burped or a very.
It's just
his face. He has resting burp face.
Resting burp face.
Butters, stop making that face.
Sorry, here. Shawshank. It was pointed out to me. We watched this on my channel a while back, like 2 years ago, or whatever. And somebody pointed out to me that it's the only movie for two men to love each other in a heterosexual way that's not broy.
Like a lasting, compassionate love.
Yeah, a completely.
I feel like it probably happens in a lot of military movies, but isn't that sort of inherently broy?
That's kind of broy.
Yeah.
I'm not dogging on it. I'm not saying, but it's not always like They Live or whatever. But there's definitely most movies are some level of action. If there's any kind of fraternal love between two men. And Shawshank is the only one that I can think of where that exists. I had never thought of it on that level, but Red and Andy love each other. That's what compels them to get through everything.
There's a little bit of that maybe in $1 Million Baby. It just ends poorly. I do feel like that's two men who almost are like co-inhabitants.
Two men and a baby.
And $1 Million Baby. Still can't believe it wasn't about an actual baby.
Never.
Why did she? It's so sad.
That's a really good. I'm trying to think of another.
Right? I wish I could give credit to who pointed that out. She's, I believe she's a film director as well. Please forgive me that I'm not remembering your name at the moment.
It's a
Social Network's the same, but it's a breakup, so that doesn't count.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always remember one of my favorite moments in Return of the Jedi was seeing Han and Lando reunite after the battle, at the very, very, very end of the movie. And there was such a genuine, because remember when they part ways where Han is talking about the Falcon and he's like, you're going to bring it back in one piece, right? And he's like, they're having a hard time saying goodbye to each other.
And he's also wearing his clothes.
Lando is
wearing Han's clothes.
In that? No, he's not.
The next scene he's wearing when he's flying.
You're thinking of the end. You're thinking of the end of Empire.
That's what I'm talking about. What are you talking about?
Then you're changing the subject off my fucking story.
What are you talking about?
I said the end in Return of the Jedi.
Oh, sorry.
The last time they see each other before the battle.
Sorry.
When he's entrusting the Falcon over to Lando, and he's going to take the stolen.
Stolen.
I know. I sounded like Alanah. The stolen.
What the fuck? I'm just sitting here.
What a weird deflection.
I'm just sitting here muted, and I gotta take hits like that.
I assume.
I'm just trying to pay homage to your.
Okay,
your,
yeah, it was
pay
respectful.
I basically, what I'm saying is that you talk like Sean Connery.
Sometimes you just have to slap a woman. Just give a woman a good slap.
So yeah, that scene. I always remember loving that though. That like because it was real, genuine. They were actually genuinely thrilled that the other made it through and was okay. You know what I mean? And it was like this beautiful. The difference is it's not a whole movie of like their dynamic, obviously. So it's not the same as Shawshank in that.
It's probably
in that way.
not something that gets explored enough. To be honest, a lot of it's like men in competition, or the only relationships that are particularly loving are
Top Gun. Could go there.
Is that not like quintessentially broy?
I feel it's a little broy, but I mean, especially Top Gun, the latest one, Maverick, like really, really explored. Like that's at the foundation of it is the love that he had for Maverick.
Yeah,
but
I loved that movie.
Oh my god!
I really enjoyed it.
I still haven't seen it. I need to. I really need to.
So it's Travis Willingham's favorite movie. Like it's his. There's so much tied to it, and of course, day one he was there. And I still hadn't seen it, and I think this was the last week that it was in theaters, and of course they'll probably extend it because it just keeps ranking in millions.
They did extend it. It's
still on
the highest grossing of the year. Still,
yeah, second high. No, it's the highest grossing of the year for sure. But I think it just moved number 2.
Weekend.
But we do this thing where for certain movies, like Laura and Pam sit next to each other, and Travis and I will sit next to each other because they're just like, you guys go be goofy over here.
This is serious boys' corner here.
Yeah. And so we're sitting there, and I'm not going to say anything, but from the first frame, I was like, I got chills. Like, oh, like it instantly gut punches you in the best, most beautiful way. And from the first frame, first sound, you know what you're in for. And
did I talk to you guys about Top Gun at all when I saw it?
Just to insert this, I was like, I think you're underselling just how successful this movie is. It's the 7th highest domestic gross of all time.
Holy shit!
Yeah, it beat Avatar or Titanic.
Yeah, it's zeroing in on 700 million US
domestic.
US.
Damn. I mean, it had to have been super expensive to make.
It was on ice also for a long time. I know that they did the score like years ago. Like it was one of those movies that was more or less finished for a long time, I think. Like Joseph
literally
Kosinski
sat on the shelf like during. I think it was shot pre-COVID.
Well,
right?
because Joseph Krasinski is that his last name? The director, the guy that did he did the Tron movie, he did the Oblivion. Yeah. He had that movie and a Netflix movie called Spiderhead come out right on top of each other because clearly after finishing Top Gun, he went and made a whole other movie, and they came out literally simultaneously as a result.
I really feel, and I don't.
Good year for him.
This isn't a disparagement at all. It's something that I feel film doesn't often have the benefit of like making games. What they do, which is an incredibly long development cycle, an incredibly long iterative testing cycle. Like typically you make your movie, you put it out in front of a test audience, and you come back and you're like, we can reshoot one thing, or we add, which is what they did with the first one.
Fire the composer. That's the standard.
What's so wild about the Batgirl thing, right? Is it feels like a video game cancellation. Like, and films don't do that.
That's actually what I wanted to talk to you guys about today. I was going to open with what does everyone think of Batgirl? Like that situation is not something that I've ever heard of before, and I was like, have any of you had any like near complete projects canceled like that?
Yeah, yes. I had a game that we were doing ADR for, and they literally burned the discs. Like we were done. We shot everything.
Why?
Went to Japan. They were like, it's not going to be profitable. It would cost them more in their mind, throwing good money after bad. And I had an interesting conversation with somebody about this. It's like, why would you do, if it's already made, why wouldn't you just put it out? And I think, if let me just insert myself and my opinion into this.
Go ahead.
I think that
it's kind of off-brand for the show, though. I feel like
actually more objectivity. Yeah, it's what we're known for.
Yeah, this is journalism we're doing here, so come on. Please stop inciting your opinions into it.
I think that it is a wonderful demonstration of where the industry has shifted to, because it's no longer in the light of Top Gun. You know, like look at these incredible ticket sales. I think it could go down as one of the last big, huge blockbuster for the cinema and for box office sales. And here's the shift that's happening. To HBO, what is the draw to be on their platform? Everybody wants things to be on their platform. And if they spend $80 million on something and it doesn't keep people on their platform, the promotion of it is a waste of money.
It can also potentially reduce the quality of the service
overall.
If it's crap.
Absolutely. They're like, oh, you have that shitty thing on there. It can spoil a teaspoon of oil in the water supply of a submarine.
This is Netflix's problem. Like, they've got unbelievable piles of content, and a lot of it's not.
But that wasn't the situation with Batgirl, right? Batgirl was a tax write-off, so it was
right, which I don't understand.
That's not why they. I mean, my understanding, not like I was in the. They were able to take it as a loss, but I don't think that was the motivation, because obviously that's like they had a movie they were planning on releasing.
That's what they said, but I think that it was also said that it performed poorly in.
No, it did. I looked into it because I was interested. It got the same kind of. I think it's been compared to. It got the same as It. You know, the movie, like in terms of the audience reaction. Yeah, it was a relatively well received in test screenings. Not like, didn't blow the doors off. But
why does that happen? If you read into it, Mike, what? Like, I've never heard of that.
You can knock a couple of $100 million off your tax bill. And if you're coming in and you're taking over a company,
I guess the idea is they're not going to make a couple of $100 million.
They're not. Well, they wouldn't make it directly. Also, like, and this is the thing that often happens when companies are change leadership. Like, you can't take credit for the stuff that happened before you join. This happens in games all the time, by the way. Like, the worst news a developer can get is that their publisher has got a new CEO. Because suddenly, anything that was in business, any business that was already ongoing, that CEO can't take credit for. So
there's my broom. Watch how clean it can sweep, right?
Clean and sweep. And the number of times that's killed, projects. I've been lucky; it's never happened to me, but like it happens all the time. And then you clean house, you get rid of a bunch of stuff. You on paper show some savings or some tax write-offs. Then you start your projects going, and when one of those is a hit, you can take credit for it.
Yeah, which is disgusting.
What do you mean? Why is it disgusting? It's.
I've been in I don't think I'm even allowed to talk about it. I worked at a company where that kind of thing happened, where the directive was to work on one thing, and then a new leader came in and was like, nope, all of you are doing the wrong thing, cut all of it, get rid of some of the people who are working on it, pivot to this. But the CEO really only did that to have control, not because it was a good business strategy, and it didn't pay off. Like, it was just like, burn a bunch of shit, be like, my company now, we're gonna do it how I say to do it, and it was just, it was gross. It was a gross tactic. It wasn't.
And the generous read is that, often they come in and they've got, like, they do have a vision for how they want the company to change, and if things don't fit that vision, that's the generous read of it. Like, that's not just about ego, but I think often it's about ego as well, right? Like, so it's a weird one. I've been caught up in it in a very early stage in a project. We had something that was kind of rolling through, but it was very early, so it didn't cause us too much harm. But yeah, it's a nightmare.
I know it's the public statement is obviously always going to have a certain amount of spin. But the statement that the guy, I'm forgetting his name, Zaslav or whatever, the new guy in charge at Warner,
the guy from Discovery,
yeah, the comment that I heard that actually rang as very understandable to me was that movie had originally been budgeted, on the mid to high, like tens of millions, like 70 million, something like that. And then they had injected a bunch of additional money, bringing it closer to 100 in the hopes of really kind of amping it up as a spectacle, because they were realizing it's not gonna, the way he phrased it in the press release or whatever was that the modern audience member for like a superhero movie expects a certain amount of just craziness, like visual and set piece and stunts and and that the film had basically been kind of initially built to differently.
I think they said it was initially built for streaming services.
Well, that's the other aspect that I wonder if it's a factor. And to be clear, like, obviously none of us know any of this, but like one of the theories I thought was interesting was during the pandemic, HBO did that thing where they simultaneously released in the States, right? Where the movie would come out in the cinema and exactly its day and date would come out on the streaming. And I believe this new guy's basically said, like, that's devaluing our movies. Things have to go to the cinema first. And has put his flag in the ground there, and that would kind of support what Austin's saying, that if this was something that was going to be a cinema and limited release at the cinema and streaming, but with an intention that streaming would be its main draw, if this now kind of falls between those two posts, and they don't think they would do well with an initial cinema release, that could also be the explanation. But as I said, the testing went pretty well for it, so that doesn't necessarily
that
track.
must have been a nonsense. I got a quote here from an expert, James L. Bandoblue Jr., a partner at New York-based law firm, who was talking
known expert.
Yes, everyone loves James M. Bandoblue.
Basically the Stephen Hawking of
followed his career for decades.
Very passionately. By shelving the Batgirl film, Warner Bros. Will be able to reduce the loss incurred in producing Batgirl against its net income from the other movies. Thus, the loss of Batgirl will be reduced taxable income. Warner Bros. Did incur costs and thereby lose money by producing the film and receiving no income in return. As such, it is not as though there is a tax benefit being obtained here without a non-tax cost. So it's not like they're making money from it; it just disappears.
But also, so this is again like an oversimplification, but with a movie release, when you see the budget, we talked about this actually, I think last week when we were talking about Predator, about Prey. When you release a movie, the budget of the movie in terms of its production, you basically double at launch, right? Because you put that money again into marketing.
Yeah.
So it's also that, right? It's also saving that enormous amount of marketing, which would have coincided. So if nothing else, you've got 50% of your money back just by not releasing it.
Yeah,
if you think you're going to make a loss.
I saw a lot of people on Twitter sort of being like, just release it already. And I'm like, the amount of effort that it takes to get it over that last 1%.
Also, you can't make the tax claim if you do release it.
Except doing this is like the best marketing strategy that Batgirl ever had. Like, I had forgotten that movie was being made, and now we're all like, what is it? And now they can't
I even
release
wonder if that's part of the strategy of, like, we don't think that this thing will stand up on its own. We have to create some controversy over it in order to stir up interest.
But
if you take away from
can't
people
now because of the taxes. That would be
they can't ever release it.
It can't be released.
You can't. Yeah, once you
they would otherwise owe that money back.
Yeah, interesting.
A Warner Bros. Spokesperson said the decision to not release Batgirl, this is just their PR quote, I guess.
Was his name?
Dave, I believe.
Dave.
Yeah, classic Dave from Warner Bros. The decision to not release Batgirl reflects our leadership's strategic shift as it relates to the DC Universe and HBO Max. So it's something to do with...
Do you think they're distancing themselves?
Streaming services? I don't know. Like, up until
DC
2 years ago,
had their
worked
own
under
streaming
Discovery
service.
and shit was crazy. It was technically Warner, but like Rooster Teeth is owned by Warner, and it definitely, like, I would be terrified if I was still working there now. It was like, it's just a huge mega corporation, and then all the smaller companies, and like watching that stuff happen and be like, oh, actually they got rid of this partner that we had, and this one's now under this one. Like, watching that happen was nuts and scary.
Your question of if we've ever seen that on a game.
Yeah.
I've definitely had games personally that were canceled, but usually not that far to the end.
Right.
However, a friend of mine, I don't know how much of this is public, so I'll be very vague. I feel like all the details of this are public, but I had a friend who worked on a game that was massively high profile and massively high budget. And they literally flew to London, recorded the entire score with the London Symphony, huge mega orchestral undertaking, and the thing was literally 100% finished. It wasn't most of the way finished. It was basically shippable, and new ownership came in, and to the point that Mike was saying of, like, it was basically, we didn't make this. This was my interpretation of why they would do this. They basically go, we didn't make this thing, so it's done. It's gone. And it makes you realize, in a multi-billion-dollar acquisition, even a $50 million or $80 million thing kind of disappearing in the cracks is just like part of the expense.
Yeah, people maybe worked on that for years, but that amount of money in this kind of acquisition is just nothing. That's wild. I had assumed that it wouldn't have happened in games, but you both have stories of it happening. Like, I know games get canceled all the time. When a publisher's not into it, they lose funding, whatever. That's not uncommon, but things being like in post finished in that kind of way,
there have been this not only happens like in film or games, but I mean I know stories of people that were on tour, like they were a band, and same thing, there's the label changes hands, and all of a sudden it's like they go line item, they go cut because I didn't sign these bands, and they've literally been on the road. They're like, we just got dropped by our label. So and that's potentially, I mean, tens of thousands of dollars and all of their recoupable money that they have to contractually make back to the label that put them out on the road, and they have that tab on them that they can't continue to support and pay that back. So it's like this happens all the time, and it's I
just
would
a
not
world
be,
that I was so unfamiliar with. And I guess I assumed a lot of others were too because of the scale of the Batgirl news, but maybe it's just that it's not been like an IP that's this recognized.
It's
funny,
not,
did you
it
see
doesn't
the
happen
other
in film as much. I think that's a big thing.
It happens
It's rare
in
film.
development.
With big budget films in particular, it doesn't happen as much. Yeah.
It happens all the time in development.
Yeah.
Movies all the time will attach a star, they'll be ready to shoot, then some other offer comes along, the star goes, I'm going to do this, and the whole thing falls apart.
I don't think that Metal Gear movie's ever coming out.
There have been a million. I've had so many directors that I've worked with over the years who called me and be like, "We're doing this thing," and then a month later, the rug got pulled out by one factor or another. But shit, that made me lose my train of thought. That you were saying.
What are we talking about it being in film
too.
It's less common in film, is the last thing Mike said.
We
broke Austin. All right.
I've been checking in with all my friends who have like things in development over Warner Brothers, just like, how you doing? They're like, trail went cold, or we're fine. But there's
I know what it was.
Go.
I'm cutting you off. Did you catch the other story? There was a second movie that got killed.
Breaking news from Warner
with
Brothers.
Batgirl.
Another movie gets canceled.
Yes, I just don't remember what it was.
It was an animated Scooby-Doo film. Yeah. So this was a charming. So the producer of that is a guy that I know, and we like follow each other on social media. And I saw him share, like, totally heartbroken, was completely blindsided by this news. Our film was basically done. And it was really good. This guy's been doing Warner Brothers animation, Scooby-Doo and Flintstones and things like that for decades. He's like, literally a staff employee. It's like old school. He works on the ranch lot and everything. So
for those who don't know, there's two Warner Brothers campuses. There's the Water Tower campus, and then there's also the ranch, which is where they did like Friends, or at least that's where the fountain was at Friends, and
it's also the big courtyard from the end of the Omega Man. But and the ranch is where a lot of the animation.
Yeah,
I did a Flintstones direct to DVD movie for Warner Brothers like 12 years ago, and visited their offices on the ranch, and it was so cool.
Yeah,
because and they've got all these like under glass in the lobby, like the original fucking cells. Bugs hand drawn, and it's fucking awesome. And anyway, this guy, Tony Cervoni is his name.
Tony Cervoni.
Yeah, the
Don't
producer. He
Gabagool.
They were so close to the end that they had hired a friend of mine named Dara Taylor to score this Scooby-Doo movie. And he goes, what do you do when you're so close to the finish line and you've already booked the orchestra and then Warner Brothers cancels your movie? You fucking record it anyway. And so 5 days after Scooby had been canceled, they were at Warner Brothers with a big orchestra and just said, fuck it, and recorded the entire score.
Can he do anything with the music?
No, but can he stick them with the
I'm sure Warner
tab?
Brothers still owns all the music, and
that will all be locked in with them. He won't have any access.
But the composer, Dara, she'll be able to basically parade around this fucking awesome, like...
That's like Johnny Cash level.
It became a story. Like, I saw the tweet about it from like Deadline or whatever, went viral. of like people going, wow, that's such a, because that was kind of got lost in the two big movie cancellations, but the Batgirl was just so much bigger that people didn't realize this other one got canceled, and a really cool kind of silver lining emerged. So if nothing else, Dara has a great, demo reel piece to add
but that's all you can use it for. That's super interesting. I feel like
awesome.
the Ezra Miller finally had a statement as well regarding the Flash, because everyone was like, if you're canceling Batgirl, what's happening with the Flash because of all this controversy regarding
I think they've been looking for a reason to get rid of Ezra Miller.
Well, but
I think
they just issued an apology, as in Ezra Miller just issued a sort of apology, which I don't think would happen without PR intervention, which makes me think Flash is happening.
And 20 lawyers, I imagine, as well.
Oh, I don't think Ezra Miller even wrote that. I don't think they wrote that at all.
It's very KGB.
I mean, I would think maybe even WB wrote it. It was I don't even know that Ezra Miller would agree with it based on the stuff that's been happening. I feel like that's the thing that they were like, we have to get this out so that Ezra Miller can still be in the Flash and we can deal with this. I think they're still going to release the movie.
Really? Seeing that today, it's
probably a far higher budget, I would think.
Yeah, and
there's a long-term investment.
Right?
In that.
It's like proper. Yeah.
Sorry, let me find the quote for anyone who missed it. Miller's statement is, having recently gone through a time of intense crisis, I now understand that I am suffering complex mental health issues and have begun ongoing treatment. I want to apologize to everyone that I have alarmed and upset with my past behavior. I am committed to doing the necessary work to get back to a healthy, safe, and productive stage in my life.
Look, if that's true, that's incredible.
Yeah, that's great.
And I wish them all the best.
Yep, 100%.
You know what's also true? Kids were banned from going to the cinema in suits.
Told you.
I Googled it and just wanted to get that in there before we
Do you want to know what else everybody missed because of the big conversation about Ezra Miller, the conversation about Mike Bithel's drinking Coca-Cola?
Right,
Mike Bithel's had a day. Mike Bithel looks good today.
Thank you. You look good today too.
What did you do?
Kerry cut my hair a couple of weeks ago. You haven't seen me since, yes. So yeah, I've had one since last
Surely we've asked this before, but is she like extra good at cutting hair because of what she does for a living?
So this it's a transferable skill. So yes, my partner makes some puppets for stop motion films. So she's used to like working on heads like that big. So this is easy mode for her.
She doesn't periodically just look and go, you know what? I want something different. Shaves your head, grafting skin on, trying to just make a new.
Yeah,
she
basically just takes out my
has
spine and rebuilds
a
the
different
armature.
kind of hair cutting skill.
Have you ever shaved your head? Show of hands if you ever shaved your head.
Oh yeah, my entire teenage years I was a skinhead.
I had a...
Not a skinhead, but a skinhead, yeah.
Yeah, I think everybody should do it once. You need to know what your scalp looks like.
It's important information to have going through life.
Based on running my fingers through my hair, my skull will be very fucking weird looking.
Cool.
And I don't think I need to expose myself or the world to that weird misshapen, like, it's like if you freeze frame halfway through the end of Indiana Jones when the guy's face is melting, and I'm pretty sure that if you shave my head, that's how I'll look. Exactly.
That's Last Crusade for everybody who's wondering.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate the translation.
I'm talking about the end of Raiders, but yes. I like.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the end of Indiana Jones or Last Crusade. I went Last Crusade.
Actually, Donovan. I think yours is a better pull. Actually, yours is more apt. That's a skull as opposed to melting. Yep.
So back to Batgirl. Experts say.
Dave.
Experts say this is such a vague thing to say because I've been used as expert before. Sometimes I've done interviews for BBC or Sky News where they're like, how do you feel about this? And I'm like, well, you're asking me the question, so I have to answer it as best I can, but I don't fucking know. And this could be the exact same thing for this. Experts say WB was not confident in the film and decided to cut its losses rather than release a film that does not fare well, which as a result would hurt the WB brand or the Batman franchise going forward. They may have decided that the benefit of any income earned by releasing the film would be outweighed by the negative image produced by the film bombing at the box office, coupled with the tax savings of netting the loss from Batgirl against WB's other income.
Thank God there's never been a bad DC movie. That's the key thing. They've never perfect run will absolutely be.
Maybe they paid a lot of attention to the alt-right YouTubers who were all like, woman of color, garbage, and they were like, oh no, we must listen to them. I really hope not. Please
No,
don't cancel me
I
just because of
think
those
it's
people.
more likely that
Those people don't earn them nearly enough money, I think, for, it to
Right.
be,
True.
for them to pay attention.
They're running good right now. They have the Batman did incredibly well. The Joker.
Joker 2 already has hype.
Did incredibly well. So I think they're trying to reshape it from being a little less maybe CWE and a little bit more into that.
It did have a little bit of that CW.
I thought it was a
to it.
CW movie. I didn't realize it was going to be like, this was what Michael Keaton was coming back for. So
I can't believe we're shitting on the CW after celebrating Raul's career up to this point. That seems incredibly
He makes
wrong.
fun of it more than anyone else.
I don't fault them for it, but I'm speaking specifically to the DC-ness of it. It's not bad, but it's if you look and go, ooh, we should be aiming more towards this because the Batman and Joker have IPs notwithstanding that caliber of filmmaking and that caliber of content.
But then that's going to be interesting how they thread that needle because they've also announced they want to do like the whole cinematic universe thing again, right?
Yeah, well, they're talking about doing something Penguin, or aren't they? They're talking about.
So are they going to try and are we going to see like the Joker and the Batman kind of?
There's one thing that I love about what DC has done that I prefer to what Marvel is currently doing, but well, I'm going to say the numbers kind of agree with me, is that you have massively different movies with completely different tones that still use these characters that you know and love and universes that you know and love, but they don't all have to be together. So I don't have to go to the movie and be like, wait, what am I forgetting from this last one or the thing that I watched 10 years ago? It's just like they're all really, really, like the variety of every single movie in the Batman catalog, how vastly different they are for the past 20, 30 years. Sure. I way prefer it. I'm like, yeah, give me whatever the fuck you want, make it weird and different every time.
Yeah. I think the IPs can stand up. I don't think they have to be speaking to each other. I think we've tried that, and now we can go back to doing something that's a little more standalone. That's just me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, even
I think
Joker
so.
and the Batman are more similar in tone, but they're still not technically.
Well, that's what I'm
the same
saying is I'm
universe.
interested in whether they can, because they've said that's what they're doing now. They've got a 10-year plan. Apparently, they're going to do the cinematic universe thing. It's like that seems to miss the lessons of what's worked for them recently.
Go for it. I gotta go to work.
The dog just touched my Alexa with his nose, and he made it read a joke. The dog just
He does
made
that a
the
lot when
Alexa
you're not
read
around.
a joke. It's
The
why did the
dog has a
horse
name.
cross the road? I don't know. It left before it could ask the equestrian.
What?
Not great.
Not great, Alexa.
It's actually terrible.
It's
I'm starting to
actually-
wonder if AIs are not gonna evolve.
I'd get rid of the dog. That's just lowered the quality of
All
life
right, we
in
got to
that
put him down.
household.
That's
Well,
it.
Yeah, exactly.
Back to
yeah,
the show.
don't find a new home,
Discoveries.
just murder.
Or
Get rid of
Warner
it.
Brothers Discovery strikes again. Now they canceled the dog. Jeez.
The last note on this article before we let you go. Give me the do, please. Is that
Flash.
there's currently a trend of the video streaming services entering what they are calling a rationalization phase. So previously it seemed like they were just about like
like the
let's make
stages of
this thing
grief.
and let's get of streaming services. They're like, let's get this thing, let's put a bunch of shit on it.
Like a slow
make it
down of
happen.
production.
Whereas
Yeah.
now there's pressure on subscriber growth versus declining advertising market. So because there are more streaming services, they're competing with each other more. Subscriber growth is lesser across the board because previously people might have subscribed to all of them and are now being more choosy. So they have to be a lot more careful with content than they were previously. And I feel like that makes sense with the cancellation of Batgirl. Is like we're being very selective now about what we're putting on going forward and what we want people to think the image of the Warner Bros. Or HBO Max app is.
Something for game developers to remember as we enter into a subscription era, that there will probably be a big boom, and then there will also be a chilling after.
Yep.
That's the lesson, I think, for all of us.
Yep. Well, but what do you
somber
take
note.
from that? Like, you're probably right, but what is the lesson?
The
prepared?
lesson is, well, yeah, I mean, basically, the if you look at the history of streaming platforms, they have all done massive expansion, spent a lot of money, and then stopped. And with games, there is a potential, and I know a lot of developers are kind of thinking about this, that we will have that similar period, make hay while the sun shines, but we also need a plan for after.
Save the money from the boom.
Save the money from the boom.
What is
Play
it,
watch
the
listen,
squirrel that
everybody.
puts
Save the
nuts
money
away?
from
Bye.
the boom. All we do here on this show is give out great advice to game developers.
Great
Buy
advice.
low, sell high.
I want someone to make that
Stonks.
a shirt. Save the money from the boom.
Yes, save
Hodl.
the money from the boom. All right, we
Don't
got you.
hodl. Don't hodl. Don't do it.
All right, thank you for watching, everybody. I'm Alanah Pearce. I'm a video game writer. That's Mike Biffle. He's a video game director. That's Trey Becky. He's a video game actor. And that is Austin Wintory. He's a video game composer. We will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.